Hi fans of high quality entertainment. Now, I totally understand a lot of my viewers don't care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame anymore, including me. But but at the same time, you still got to, I still want to talk about it because the nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, class of 2020, have been announced. The list is capped by the Doobie Brothers, Judas Priest, and Soundgarden. 3 that they belong in there, but they should have been in there probably a few years ago. Neither the Doobies nor Soundgarden have ever appeared on a Rock Hall ballot. Judas Priest earned a first-time nomination in 2018 but got passed over. They didn't make the ballot the next year, reportedly because of low voting scores on the fan ballot. And the Doobie Brothers frontman Tom Johnson says, "I wish we had been in a long time ago. Our band has definitely been around long enough, made enough noise hit-wise, given a lot of people a lot of pleasure, and is still out doing it. I don't know what else would be required. I think those are the requirements." Also nominated for 2020, are you ready? Motorhead, Pat Benatar, Dave Matthews Band, Depeche Mode, MC5, Nine Inch Nails, Todd Rundgren, T-Rex, and Thin Lizzy, along with Whitney Houston, Kraftwerk, the Notorious B.I.G., Rock and Roll, and Rufus, featuring Chaka Khan, of course. That's total rock and roll. T-Rex and Thin Lizzy are also making their first ballot appearances. So the inductees will be announced in January 2020. To be eligible for nomination, acts must have released their first commercial recording at least 25 years prior to the year of nomination. So, one of the reasons I've done this video probably every year. And, I complain and others complain and some say, who cares, whatever. But I'm thinking of starting a series called the Canadian Studmuffin Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where I put in real rock and roll nominees, real rock acts that deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So for me, if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was done properly through the years, all of these artists should have been in years ago. And they haven't even been nominated yet. And I think, at least for me personally, the one that really stands out for me is Grand Funk, gotta watch how to say that, Grand Funk Railroad. In the late 60s, early 70s, even throughout the up to the mid 70s at least, they were huge. They sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles did. And they sold a ton of albums, and they are rock and roll. Now, a couple of these, even viewers that agree with most of my list, they might disagree with a couple of them, including Three Dog Night. Now, I know it's mainly, 3 lead singers, and they didn't write the material. They got, outside sources, Randy Newman and Hoyt Axton and whatever. But still, they were a real band. The band was great. And they sold millions of records. They were a big band in the 70s, and they're not nominated. And the other one that some agree with and some will think they don't belong in there is the Monkees. But I believe they should have been nominated and in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame years ago. And yes, they started out as a fake TV band, but they all had talent, and they wrote some of the songs they wrote themselves. They did play on some of their albums, and so they belong in. They're a really talented band. And the others: Jethro Tull, Iron Maiden, King Friggin' Crimson, the Guess Who. They, in the early, I think in 1970, they outsold the Beatles in records. And, they had lots of hits. And they were such a talented band. And speaking of the Guess Who, Randy Bachman was in that band, and he was also in a huge 70s band called Bachman Turner Overdrive. Devo, big 80s band. Joe friggin' Cocker. Personal favorite, Sparks. They've been making music since 1969, and they have, they've had hits worldwide in different countries. Peter Frampton. I think he still has the biggest selling live album of all time. Smashing Pumpkins, they aren't in. Tina Turner, I'd have to recheck that, because why would... Whitney Houston is nominated, but Tina Turner is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Captain Beefheart, The Cure, The Smiths, Radiohead. The list goes on and on. What are some artists that you feel should be nominated? And I was also going to say, it's also sad that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame waits too long to get some of these artists into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like when Yes was finally nominated and Chris Squire had passed away. It's really sad. And, yeah. So stay tuned for the Canadian Studmuffin Rock and Roll Hall of Fame whenever I get to it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.